An interesting saying that I once heard concerning race relations in the United States, the South United States, i.e. the Southeast, Dixie, if you like, versus the North. And the North, I suppose one could include California as well. The Southerner may dislike African Americans as a race, the white Southerner may dislike African Americans as a race, but he loves them, is perfectly capable of loving them and having affection for them as individuals, whereas the Northerner, the northern white person, loves African Americans as a race, but is not so fond of them as individuals. When he's confronted with a real live African American, he doesn't quite know what to do, and he doesn't really necessarily like what he sees, regardless of how much his principles tell him that he shouldn't feel this way. I don't really know whether or not this is actually taking place. I'm a Canadian, and I don't like to generalize, but there's something that would ring true about that. The easy way in which the Southerner, who's grown up among African Americans all of his life, would deal with black people, versus the Northerner, who may only see them in the center of the city that he lives in, may be a little bit more unnerved. I don't know. The reason why I bring this up is I was once traveling in the Philippines, when you travel around as a white person in foreign countries, whenever you see another white person, you're sort of instinctively drawn towards them because you want to compare travel stories and say, oh yes, where are you from? Let's go for a beer or whatever. This Belgian fellow happened to be gay, and one of the things that he was shocked about was the complete openness of gay life in Southeast Asia, particularly in the Philippines, but in Southeast Asia in general. In Southeast Asia, more than anywhere else I've ever been, being a homosexual is pretty much right out in the open. It's considered more of a minor foible than a huge issue. The loyalty of the family comes first. This goes for Burma, the Philippines, Cambodia, wherever. The family loyalties are very powerful. However conservative the people might actually be as Buddhists or Catholics in the Philippines, the family loyalty is more important. It wins out over loyalty to a essentially socially conservative religious point of view. So the church has had to give way in the Philippines. They have had to sort of look the other way, because in traditional Philippine society you simply don't disown someone because they're gay. It's just considered a minor issue. They're still very much part of the family. They're involved in every aspect of family life. They're not excluded in any way. In fact, a Filipino would find it bizarre and heartless, somewhat blasphemous, to disown a member of your own family because they're gay. Well, anyway, this Belgian fellow, I got the impression that this was all a little bit too much for him. He'd gone out clubbing in the gay districts of Manila or Cebu, and it was too much out in the open for even him as a gay male. He was realizing that his own conservatism, he was almost more comfortable seeing himself as something of a deviant, even though he was probably very in favor of gay rights, gay marriage, all this kind of thing. But he had never actually been in a society where it's so much out in the open that it just isn't even, it's not even seen as something deviant or something that society has to make allowances for. It's just some people are that way, and that's the end of it. It doesn't go any further. There are exceptions to this, of course. I'm sure there are homophobic ties or Filipinos, but the general rule is one of very wide toleration of this kind of thing, and not just toleration, acceptance, and so what? Oh yeah, my son's gay. Oh well, wonder what's on TV tonight. This kind of thing. So he had his limits. He was shocked by the openness of this kind of thing. So there's a little bit of conservatism in us all. He may have thought that he was a very liberal person, and that he thought that maybe Belgian or European or Western society wasn't moving quickly enough. But then when he moves a few decades ahead and sees where this is leading, he's, I want to go back to Belgium because this is a little bit too much for me, or I want to start hanging around with this straight Canadian guy because this is disorienting, the amount of freedom. or the amount of acceptance. Now, this is something that I think that a lot of people who are actually opposed to gay marriage should see, is the traditional societies of Southeast Asia. They are very traditional. The clergy, especially the Catholic or the Buddhist clergy, are given enormous respect. In that way, the societies kind of resemble each other. The priests and the Buddhist monks resemble, their position in society is almost identical. Very highly respected, always listened to, always given pride of place in society. But quietly, society goes its own way. And the clergy make allowances for this. So they are very conservative people, but they're not terrified by the sight of a sequin-clad, cocktail dress-clad ladyboy walking down the street with his very masculine-looking boyfriend. It's just not, whatever, they simply don't care. It hasn't caused society to disintegrate. It hasn't caused an extreme disorientation among the broad mass of the people, open homosexuality. In fact, I haven't really studied this a great deal, but I wouldn't be at all surprised if that's simply the way it's always been in these societies. An acceptance of the gay lifestyle is part of their innate conservatism. So what makes someone a conservative? It just depends on where you are and when you are. Thank you.